Hey everybody. I'm sorry I've gotten a little behind this week. I've been under the weather for a couple of days. I'm going to get back on it. Hopefully tomorrow I'm going to wake up and feel just amazing. So I hope you're doing well, and I hope you and your families are healthy and your friends and loved ones as well. And I hope this format is working for you thus far. So today we're going to talk about advertising. So I'm going to share my screen and pull up the PowerPoint. And, oh, I'm hiding my present button. There we go. I'll put myself up here. Okay, so today's topic is advertising. And so, that's not helpful, is it? So the history of advertising. Just, you know what? I'll just stick myself right here, right in the middle. All right, so advertising actually goes way back, way back to ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, and advertisements have been found in papyrus in those places, and then also having been applied to buildings. So I have a picture here of one of those, so you can see what archaeologists have been able to uncover over time, and that's that advertising is, let's see, way older than the print advertising that we think of today with the printing press. Ancient China used advertising too. They would do it, they were known for doing it with auditory imagery. So for example, folks outside of shops would play bamboo flutes and the music to draw people in. So that's advertising. In the 15th century, of course, this all changes with the printing press. If you remember our good friend, Mr. Gutenberg, from, a little while back. Then when mass communication began, so did mass printing. And a great example of that, when we look back at early advertisements, is that a lot of them were for immigration, trying to lure immigrants to the New World, for example. In the mid-1800s, you started having more advertising for unique products and services. With that, of course, there were no standards, and even into the 19th and early 20th centuries, there were no standards in advertising, so people could advertise for whatever in the world they wanted. I could go in my kitchen and mix up what I'm calling a hair tonic, and then I could put an advertisement out for it and sell it. So there was no regulation really until the 20th century. So that kind of thing started in the mid-1800s. And then just as an interesting fact today, of all the industries worldwide, automobile industry is the largest advertiser. All right, so advertising agencies. So the first advertising agency appeared in 1841 in the United States, and it was started by Volney P. Palmer. And within 20 years, there were more than 20 advertising agencies in New York City alone. And so once it started and businesses saw the impact, they joined in, and there was demand for advertising agencies. And it's still a great industry today. Advertising's changed a little bit, a lot, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's still a great industry to go into after you study communications. When advertising agencies first began, there's a lot of testing to see what should we charge people and how should we do it. And the model that was set up by Palmer is basically the same model as we have today, where rates vary according to the size of the audience and the quality of the target audience. So for example, when you're watching television, the most expensive advertisements are in primetime television in the evening. Radio advertisements, the prime or most expensive time to have a radio advertisement is in the morning commute or the evening commute. And so you can also tell the target audience by the time of day. So now that you're home, what I would love for you to do is I want you to turn on the television one day during either The Price is Right or the soap opera of your choice. Now stick with me, right? I think what you will see is a very specific targeted audience. As someone who was out on maternity leave for weeks, a couple of times, I was amazed that during the day, everyone assumed that I was old and female. Evidently, there are a few men that are home during the day because I see some of those advertisements, but I think you'll see a trend with the majority of them. So please do that. I think it'll bring you a smile and a chuckle once you realize what the target audience is. It's just so obvious. So do take a look at that. Channels, of course, are different. The advertisements that come on MTV are very different than the advertisements that come on HGTV. My daughter and I love watching HGTV and Food Network, and we're not exactly their target audience either. Let's put it that way. So spend some time. I'm telling you to watch some regular television, not streaming. Spend some time looking at different channels and the advertisements that come on and the different times a day. And I'm telling you, you've got to watch it in the middle of the day. Okay, so commercial television, speaking of which, in 1957, in a typical week, viewers saw 420 commercials totaling 5 hours and 8 minutes. And certainly streaming services have put a wrench in this, but that's pretty typical for quite some time in terms of the amount, or the amount of time you would spend as a viewer watching commercials. Commercials could be 2 minutes long, commercials could be 3 minutes long. There's a time period, I'm trying to think of which decade it was. It might have been, it was early on in my life, so not that long ago, when, excuse me, when the amount of time, I know what I'm trying to say, when things started going digitally and television stations would give longer amounts of time to commercials for certain companies. And they would also do these things called, but basically like back to back, where you would have 2 commercials in a row for the same product, but different commercials. And that even came before the rise of the internet. But it's just another marketing method. One of the most famous television advertisements was made by Tony Schwartz, and it's called The Daisy Spot. I'm going to show it to you. It's a campaign ad. It's distressing, so just want to make sure you know. Okay, here we go. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it. I'll put all these all these links on the YouTube page as well. Wait for it. So yeah, that's one of the most dramatic campaign advertisements I've ever seen. I'm going to show you another dramatic one in just a little bit, but that's one of the most famous advertisements in history. It will remain as such because it's so dramatic, but it uses scare tactics. And so think back to pathos, ethos, logos that we've talked about before, these rhetorical appeals. And we should look for those in advertisements. When you're watching advertisements, you should always think to yourself, how is this company trying to manipulate me into doing what it wants me to do? And so there's a great example of fear tactics. Infomercials, man, they'll never go away. So infomercials, if you don't know what they are, well, here, if you don't know what they are, then you really haven't lived. So hold on a second. Let's do OxiClean infomercial. Billy Mays. I'm just gonna play like a few seconds of it. All right, there you go, an infomercial. By the end, they're showing you where you can buy this product and the number you can call to get it right now. And if you call right now, you'll get a second one half price. So infomercials, and those used to run mostly during the night for people who couldn't sleep, is trying to take advantage of that. You're tired, and so you might be more willing just to spend money. And then of course channels like QVC, which are just infomercials all day long. So the Fairness Doctrine was in place between 1949 and 1987. This is an interesting one. It required broadcasters to seek out and present all sides of a controversial issue they were covering. And so, oh, didn't mean to do that. And so the issue with this, for example, if you were going to run advertisements for cigarettes, you had to run an equal amount of time for anti-smoking campaigns. But the issue here, of course, is that if you're running advertisements for anti-smoking campaigns, then you have to run an equal time of cigarette ads. So you can see we're in certain situations that that gets a little dicey. So in 1987, we got rid of that. There have been some bans on advertising over the years. In the 1970s, cigarette ads were banned on television and on radio. You still don't see them. So that started in 1970. Hard liquor had a self-imposed, I don't know if it's really a ban, but they pulled all their advertisements for 60 years. And in the early 2000s is when those started coming back. And so you see those today on the television all over the place, but still no cigarette ads. Now, one of the controversies today in advertising is the marketing of prescription drugs. So this is a relatively recent development, just in the past couple of decades. And you've seen the ads, right? I can name all kinds of drugs. I can't even tell you what they're for, but I know the names of them. And you'll have the commercial, and it's the grandpa who can't play soccer with his little granddaughter, and then he gets this new medicine for his arthritis from his doctor, and now he can play with his granddaughter. So the issue here, of course, is, I mean, what do we think of that? On one hand, one could argue that that it makes an informed consumer, that I could go into my doctor and have sort of a grasp on my options at least, and know what to ask for. On the other hand, a lot of people are going into doctor's offices and requesting these drugs when it might not be the right ones for them, which causes a lot of tension and distrust in providers. Certainly they'll want one type of drug when another might be more effective. So there's a lot of discussion about that kind of marketing, if that should be allowed, or if maybe that should be banned as well. These are also controlled substances. So what does that mean for our war on the abuse of prescription drugs? Okay, so branding. So if you close your eyes and you think of a brand, you can pick any brand you want. Once you think, like, what do you see, what do you hear, right? So when I think of Nike, I hear swoosh. When I think of Coke, I hear psh. And then I also think of polar bears and Santa Claus. When I think of, oh gosh. Okay, I'm just gonna stop there because those are good. Oh, green beans. I think of Green Giant. Oh, 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 Green Giant. Ah, Folgers coffee. I think of the old commercials where people would get up and make coffee in the morning and they'd realize their loved one was home. Publix has those just heart-wrenching commercials at Christmas time. But when I think of Publix, I think we're shopping as a pleasure. That's their tagline. So branding is important, and it can make all the difference. Interestingly, in branding, sometimes a brand becomes synonymous with the object. So if I tell my husband that he needs to go to the store and get some tissues, what I say to him is, I need you to go to the store and get some Kleenex. I don't care what he comes back with. I don't care if it's Puffs. I don't care if it's Publix brand. I don't care. I call all tissues that you sneeze into Kleenex, and I always have. People will often say, oh, you need copies? I'll go down and Xerox those for you, right? When Xerox is a brand, it's not a verb, but it's become one. Coke and Pepsi have had some interesting branding clashes over the years. So back in the 80s, Coke decided to do this new Coke to separate itself from Pepsi. And so it was this really sweet, totally nasty Coke, new Coke. It became this thing of legend, but it was their attempt to further separate themselves from Pepsi. Pepsi did this very famous ad where it had a blind taste test. And so they blindfolded a bunch of people and had them drink Coke and Pepsi and choose which one they preferred. And people chose Pepsi. So you can get into some branding clashes there too. Both of them have tried to do their clear varieties, Crystal Pepsi, I think it was called, and I don't know, I can't handle that. Celebrities have a lot to do with branding and get paid a lot for branding. And I mean, look at reality TV show stars. They go on those shows, and a lot of them go on there so that they can get paid to promote products. But a celebrity can make all the difference, and you have to choose well and make sure that your celebrity really represents your brand. But that can be really effective. And then just talking about some famous brands that you know, or even famous jingles from commercials that you might be aware of. What is it? There's one that my daughter. I feel like it's an auto parts store. Well, whenever we hear anything that says O'Reilly, we both go, O'Reilly Auto Parts. So there's that. So there are certainly some brands that are more memorable than others, and a lot of it has to do with their branding. Okay, so in advertising, you can also sell ideas. It's not just about products. So you can sell images, ideas, candidates, lifestyles. And a lot of this falls under the label of social marketing. So with that, you have fear appeals, which I showed you earlier, and PSAs, public service announcements. So an example of this is there are a lot of public service announcements about smoking and the dangers of smoking. There's one here on the screen: you smoke, your child smokes, take your smoke outside. A little baby with black lungs. That's very sad. But also I think of those television commercials where the woman has had the tracheotomy and she can barely speak, and she talks about how that's impacted her life, and she's got a big hole in her throat. I mean, that's a fear appeal, but it works for me, man. I'm not inhaling. A couple of figures that are associated with PSAs are McGruff the crime dog. He's in the middle there. He was very popular in the 80s, and they've tried to bring him back a couple times. But his whole thing was take a bite out of crime. So you would have all these commercials about watching out for crime around you. And then at the bottom right, Smokey Bear, who I think will be here forever. Only you can prevent forest fires. Okay, types of advertising. This is just a small sampler. Classified advertising. Now that's being taken out of newspapers a lot these days and being put online, but that's where anybody can put a classified ad to buy or sell. You see this on My Furman. Display advertising, so that could be a billboard. Oh, here's an interesting one. So there's a company in Greenville called Palmetto Armory, and it's they sell guns and they have a shooting range. And at Christmas, they put up these ads, billboards, and I find them so distressing. One has a picture of a deer through a sight, and it says, "Not a creature was stirring." And then it has like holly and stuff all around it with weapons. And then, they have another one where they have a gun with a silencer on it, and it's surrounded by holly, right, and Christmas things, and it says "Silent Night." Anyway, I find these both clever and distressing. But so display advertising. An advertorial, which is where something looks like an editorial in a paper or that you receive, but it's actually an advertisement. So you see these a lot with politicians. Subliminal advertising is illegal. So what that is, it's what it sounds like, but maybe even creepier than what you think. So it's not just product placement. That's something different. Subliminal advertising is the concept that, for example, you could be watching television and commercial break, and then there's just a flash of a product, and it's so quick that you don't even notice it, but it's gone into your subconscious, and now you have this desire for it. And so that's illegal, but you know, there's not a whole lot of proof of how often it actually happens. So, product placement, we've talked about before. Outdoor advertising, direct mail. Gosh, as someone who owns a home and gets lots of mail, I feel sorry for the trees with the amount of direct mail that I just throw away. Telemarketing, which has gone down over the years since we all started having caller ID. Email marketing, banner ads, which pop up on your screens, pop-ups and video, and this can also be in-game advertising. That's gotten huge in recent years. And then behavioral advertising, and that's the one where cookies are used. And so Sorry. There'll be sort of a tracking of the things that you're interested in, what you're looking at, and then you'll see advertisements that are related to that. So you go to, I don't know, the Prada website and you're looking up shoes. And the next thing you know, you're on Facebook and all of a sudden all these shoe ads are popping up. Wow. Behavioral advertising. So the business of advertising, last slide, and then I'll be quiet and show you some things. Advertising agencies. So here's some jobs you can have in advertising. You can be creative. So these are people that design the ads. Client management, which is exactly what it looks like with accounts. Media buying, so you're the purchaser. You go out and procure the ad space. And then research, which is a hugely important job to make sure that everything's correct. A great example of a failure of this would be the Kylie Jenner Pepsi ad from the Super Bowl. If you haven't seen it, you should Google it. It's kind of hard to find in some, oh, you guys can probably find anything, but because it got taken down real fast. But someone should have done their research on that one. And I could have told them that was a bad idea. And this isn't, I mean, I'm not a marketing whiz. So those are some jobs you can have within advertising. And then a couple other issues that are going on right now are the effective ad blockers. So now that we have ad blockers on our search engines, ad blockers on our phones, right? The do not call registry. These agencies have to be more creative about how they appeal to you. And then of course the ethical issues, as there's more surveillance in the world and there's more ways to watch people and track them with cookies and things like that. To what extent is that okay with advertising, and to what extent is that problematic? So those are just some things to think about. So let me show you some ads. I'm going to show you a couple of print ads first. So this was a very handy that someone had put this together, because I agree that these are some of them anyway. So some print ads they're meaningful. So this one is for a glasses company. So it's Van Gogh. And then as you can see, once the glasses are on, all the blurry goes away. I think that's very clever. It uses a well-known painting as well. Smart. Okay, this one is fascinating. It's for Save the Penguins. So you just watch as I scroll down. I wish I could have it on one page, but you know, I cannot. Oh, right? So see the reality before it's too late. Okay, so asking you to adopt a penguin. This one is fascinating, from the French Ministry of Health, children obesity. So it's an ice cream cone, but the ice cream is an obese child. So I have to say about that. This is a great one. This one's called Stop the Violence, Don't Drink and Drive. And so it's this concept that, I mean, you can interpret this several ways, but one way certainly is that if you drink and drive and you crash your car, it's like you're punching somebody in the face, like you're harming someone, just as you would if you just hold back and punch them, right? So don't drink and drive. This is great. Okay, so I can't remember what year this was. Chick-fil-A or Kentucky Fried Chicken ran out of chicken. Like that happened. There was like a crisis and they ran out of chicken. I'd love to know what's going on in the world right then. Were people like emotionally eating chicken? But anyway, I digress. And so they put out an ad where they changed KFC to FCK, and you can just interpret that for yourself. And they put out this whole message, a chicken restaurant without any chicken. It's not ideal. Huge apologies for our customers, especially those who traveled out of their way to find we were closed. And anyway, it goes on. Clever, and saved a lot of face with customers, because people were like, ooh, like, and it made them honestly seem kind of more young and relevant, because they were willing to go on the limb with this kind of language. So these are for sugar-free lollipops, with the ants going around because they're not interested because there's no sugar. This one's fascinating. Jeep, see what you want to see. So I'll just let you look at that for a minute. Okay, spoiler alert, there are two animals. So you need to kind of look at it different ways and you'll see two. I'm gonna tell you what they are. A giraffe and a penguin. Your typing while you drive is as bad as your driving while you type. So this is one for not texting and driving, which I think is quite clever as well, without using fear tactics. This one is a better job is waiting. So it's the idea of like sitting at home being, you know, basically like getting moldy, sitting around, playing games on the computer, like not going and getting them, right? So come to us, we'll help you get a job. This one's great. Pedigree. It's about, it's their, push to try to get people to adopt animals. You have the man on the beach all by himself looking sad, but then you add the animal in and all of a sudden he doesn't look, it's not sad anymore. A dog makes your life happier. Adopt. Okay, and then finally, I know what you're thinking. This is an advertisement for a product called Sexy Heels. So those are the heels of someone's foot, right? So if you get your flaky, dry heels, you use this and you rub the lotion on your heels. But boy, does that get your attention or what? Right? The first time I looked at this, I was like, oh, I can't show that in class. And then I realized what it was. All right, so some other advertisements, and you can look at a lot of these. Here's one for Heinz. It's pretty good because it shows like there are actual tomatoes in there. Of course, McDonald's, the slogan, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And that's a great example of branding and how people are holding on to it because everyone knows that's it for McDonald's. Let's see, there were a couple others I wanted to show you on here. Stop burning our life. Let's see. Oh, Coca-Cola. Lots of awesome ads for Coca-Cola. And then this one. So this is a advertisement to stop domestic abuse, and it shows a woman dressed in traditional garb, and you can barely see the bruise, but you can still see it there. Okay, so I'm gonna put on the YouTube channel some other advertisements, and let me show you what they are. So this one is going to be this is probably my all-time favorite campaign ad. I love it. It's Rick Perry for president, and I just want you to watch it. It's made like a movie trailer, and I just cannot get enough of this ad. It's just, I find myself multiple times like, so I'm curious to see what you think. And then after that, Herman Cain smoking ad, you need to watch them in this order, please. Okay, this was a really famous ad that flopped during when Herman Cain was running for president, and it flopped so much so that Stephen Colbert made an advertisement parody, which is just phenomenal. So you're welcome in advance. All right, so watch those, and then I'm going to put an activity for you on Moodle, and the activity will include you finding an advertisement and doing some work with that as well. And then I'll put a question up on the forum, and that'll be for today's class. All right, a word on the essays. I apologize once again, especially to Corey, because I told Corey I would have it to him like 4 days ago, but I got sick, and I promise you I've got them all graded. I just need to type up the grades and send them to you, but I'll get those done. And then also I want to check in on Zachary because I've missed him. I think of him a lot. The other day, I had Chick-fil-A for lunch, and I've realized now that I will always think of Zachary when I have Chick-fil-A. And I'm also happy because now I can actually consume Chick-fil-A while teaching this class and not just have to smell the fries. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing really well, and we'll chat again soon. All right, talk to you later. Bye, guys.